yesterday. I drew Lily Kate. I also filmed it. I'm gonna put that up sometime this week. I know I didn't draw these in order, so most of these are done out of order. I just randomly pick pages in my book. Yeah, goes around. Yeah, I would definitely say this is one of the worst drawings. Not the worst, but yeah. Sometimes you're just not really feeling it, you know? So, other times you know what you want to draw, and then all of a sudden when it comes to the blank page, you just go blank and you're like, I don't know what to draw. Yeah. So, usually you're supposed to draw in the wrong way, but today. Who am I drawing? Some would say, oh, this isn't drawing because I'm just darkening areas. I try different styles, different ways of going about things. And today I was thinking, how about I draw a face by going by the shadows and stuff? Yeah, I'm using a reference image. Some would say, oh, that's cheating or whatever. Other people hate it when I don't use a reference. You know, I've had teachers that kind of pissed off at me because most of what I draw is from my own memories, imagination, and stuff. They just hate when I do that. It's like, what? I know what they look like. Like, no, no. Or, like, I know what it looks like. Like, they get mad about some things. You know, it's like, oh, no, no, no. And some say, oh, I'm sexist because I just draw women. It's like, okay, if I didn't draw women, what, you would say that I'm sexist or what, gay? Oh, you just draw guys. You know, you must be gay. Like I even heard people say shit like that just because I draw a lot of female characters. Oh, you're gay. Because you draw beautiful women. Oh, God. Like, no matter what I draw, people will always have some criticism. Say, I don't care what you believe. Just because I know how to draw figures, I know how to draw people, I know how to draw animals, I know how to draw clothing on people. It's like, oh, you must be this, you must be that. I'm like, no, no. I had only one teacher that actually figured out that what I am is a perfectionist. And I had one other teacher a long time ago told me to get out of my funk of like trying to be perfect at everything or whatever. Is it? He noticed that with a lot of people, it's you obsessed on certain things, on details and whatnot. And it's the same thing like when you want to know how to draw, you just want to draw something, but your mind goes blank. They'll just get like a blank piece of paper. He had this as an exercise. Just start scribbling, just not even think about it. Just go on random, swirls and stuff. And also specified is to besides that, drop ink on, kind of like, ink monsters that you've seen other people do, but something less predictable, just drop ink or whatever. Just with, just plop it down or whatever, And then from these blobs and splotches that you can get ink onto a brush and just flick it down onto the paper. And you'll get more of a random splatters and stuff. Just splatter. Kind of do like a Jackson Pollock kind of piece on your paper. And then with those splatters and what you did, and then from that, try to see what you can come up with. What kind of images that you see in the paper within those splotches, whatever. Sometimes you might surprise yourself about what you can and what you can't do. Some people are imaginative, some aren't in certain ways, Some are not even imaginative at all, I've noticed, That's how it usually ends up being. I know, I kind of always piss off a lot of teachers, especially art teachers, when they don't like me drawing, like, starting with, like, the hair or with the eyes, Like, I would start a picture with just on the eye, like, just super detailed on one eye, and then from that point, I just expand outwards. And it works, too. A lot of people say, "Oh, that will never work." I'm like, yeah, it does. You just have to have practice and patience on this. It takes time, not you're not gonna be perfect at everything all at once. It's like, yeah. And no matter what you do, never ever do is say that you can't do it. It doesn't matter if you've never done it before. Try it. Just because you might surprise yourself that how skilled you might actually be. You might actually learn that you actually learn a certain way that you never really thought you actually did learn. Some people, they don't know what they don't. Yeah. A German teacher of mine, Alasti, said that to me years and years ago. You don't know what you know. But he was correct on that. I know I'm not really talkative on this. I never could understand how somebody could just babble in these kind of videos while they're drawing. I mean, it's kind of difficult for me to do so. So you'll probably hear me just pausing a lot. I'm sorry. Um, you know, I don't have is a stand where I can put my iPad above me or anything like that. That's kind of why this is the way it is. Yeah, I've had people tell me that I should use as smudge brushes and smudge sticks and stuff like that. It's like, no, I never liked that. I never considered it cheating or anything like that. I just didn't like using those particular tools. Some people like want to use that because so their hands don't get dirty. So there are things that are enjoyable in life that are well considered dirty. You get messy with it. Art has always been one of those things that is never a cut and dry, like you will always be clean. Like, if you notice, when you took any kind of art stuff, as a kid, like especially like a grade school or preschool or kindergarten stuff, uh, um, they have you doing things that are basically messy. I didn't like some of the projects they had us do, like playing with finger paint. A lot of little kids like that. Me, I was one of those kids that I don't really like that much. It wasn't because, you know, hard to be creative. No, I was the creative one in class. Everybody else just copies whatever they're told to draw. Why don't you draw this? Okay. Draw a stick figure. Like, what is that? Oh, that's whatever you want it to be. Or whatever. They didn't say whatever you wanted to be. They just, yeah, they just pussied out and said, oh, that's my family and stuff. Yeah, they had me drawing my family. It's like you have to draw. It's like, yeah, I don't like any of my family, so I don't like drawing them. When I was like a little kid, I'm like, what? Yeah. Draw like your family. Like I've drawn like my sisters and my mom and me at the house with all my cats. It's like, where's your dad? Oh, he left a long time ago. I think, oh, I'm sorry. Like, no, he's not dead. He's just divorced. Yeah, my parents divorced when I was a very little kid. Like pretty much my whole entire life, they've been divorced. So, yeah, I've seen so many psychologists that say that I'm supposed to feel a certain way because I'm not feeling the way that they say that I'm supposed to. Like, I don't, match up to what their teachings have been, what they have been taught. Like, oh, you're supposed to feel a certain way, and if you don't feel that way, there's something wrong with you. It's that kind of nonsense. It's like, dude, I had to tell him so many times, like, all these different psychologists, like, that's the, my parents did not care to live with each other or be married to each other anymore. It has nothing to do with me. And they say, oh yeah, it has to, it's like, no, it doesn't. They were miserable being around each other. They didn't want to be around each other anymore. They didn't want to be married to each other anymore. So I didn't go into the fact that, hey, my dad cheated and, you know, all this other shit that was going on. But I just gave him like the basic answers, like, hey, my parents don't like living with each other. They don't like being married to each other. My dad could never live by himself. He's one of those people that say that they're independent, but they always have to have somebody in their life, to live with or whatever. Because they can't live on their own. They can't deal with being alone. That's how my dad is. He has to always have somebody or whatever in his life. I don't give a fuck about people. Sorry to say that to you. I don't need anybody. I never did, never will. People get mad because I say that. It's like, look, I was raised differently than others, I was raised to be independent, It's like, fuck it, Oh, yeah, and it also comes to the thing where the most ridiculous thing that anyone has said to me, and this is my sibling has said this, my eldest sister. She told me that she was sorry that my parents, not ours, she said, my parents, actually said, was to me, I'm sorry that your parents, like, wait a minute, what do you mean, your parents? Shouldn't be ours. Your parents, of how she said, but she basically said was this, I'm sorry that your parents didn't teach you how to be independent. I'm like, bitch, I've been independent all my fucking life. Why would you say such stupid, nonsensical shit? I don't need a person. I don't need to get married. You looked for a guy to get married, and I already knew what kind of guy she would go for. She'll go for either is one of three kind of guys. Rich, that's number one. Number two, military. Or the third option, rich and in the military. But that's not really likely. Because usually rich kids that were in the military and stuff, they know other rich kids and stuff. They usually already have someone, and they're not going for you. They'll probably fuck you and, use you and stuff, but you ain't going to be, whatever. I knew this for a long time of what kind of person. She ended up with a guy that was in the military, of course, a Marine and whatnot. She was gaga over him, like, when she first saw him, and like, yep, that's the guy that she's going to marry. She's going to do everything she can to do is try to convince this guy, Even when I told her that this and she denied it, even after she got married to the guy, she denied it. I'm like, you were gaga over him. No, I wasn't. Yeah, you were. And I told her exactly the date and what happened it's like, how do you know? Like how she met him. It's like, how do you know? It's like, after you met him, he came home late at night. You and Tammy were talking about him. Like, oh God, you were all fucking gaga. That's not, you weren't. You're fucking gaga over the guy. I don't know why she denies it. It's like she denies about a lot of shit, It's like, fuck. There was something that I said. I don't even like her husband. He's a piece of shit. But that was like the nicest thing he could ever hear. That the woman that he loves is a narcissistic fucking bitch. And he seems not to realize that. He just assumes that she's crazy. And I go, I know she's nuts. Now who's more fucking crazy, you or her? You're the idiot that fell in love with her and married her and still stayed with her after all the bullshit she has you going through, all this shit. You're the one still with her. Now, who's more crazy, you or her? And he still tells me, like, oh, your sister's nuts. Your sister's crazy. Your sister's crazy. Like, I know that they are. I try warning all of you idiots, but no, like, yeah, my sister's nuts. Like, who cares? I know she is. I know both of my sisters are fucking crazy in their own ways, but still. My eldest, it's my eldest sister. She is the fact when I did specified is that she's my half sister. I'm her half brother. And she goes, I never considered you that. And I was like, lady, you never considered me and Tammy as related to you whatsoever. You want nothing to do with us. All of our lives, you wanted nothing to do with either one of us. You consider us a shame on your whatever. Because you got nothing in your life. You don't even know. I know that my sisters were always jealous of me, hated me over stupid shit, especially when all the elderly people in our lives, the family members, they would tell my sisters, why don't you be more like Clay? Can you be more like Clay? Like, yeah. And this is after they told me this, don't be me. Only my grandparents have told everybody, it's like, leave Clay alone. He knows who the fuck he is. He doesn't need you to tell him what to do, like who he is and stuff. It's kind of the reason why that I've had was kind of a laissez-faire with my parents, whatever. Yeah. That's kind of the upbringing I had with my parents. Like, my parents raised me differently than, um, than others. I don't know why I'm talking about this nonsense. But when people tell you you have to draw a certain way, who cares? This is my drawing. This is the way I'm drawing this picture today. There was a French artist who came to America in the 1800s. He draws beautiful pictures of women, but by the way, all those women that he draws is actually his wife. Yeah, they're all ink drawings and stuff, but he has this fantastic detailing of the hair. He's like meticulous of drawing her hair and stuff. Flowing locks, whatever. I always liked how he draws his wife, had teachers that kind of bitched at me for a lot of things all my life. I even had teachers that tell me that they hate me so much they wish I was dead, telling me, "Oh, why don't you die already? Why aren't you dead already?" Like, literally. The one that kept on telling me that, her name was Mrs. Hay. Fucking fat ass bitch. She's so fucking fat that they had to widen her door only, wider than all the doors, because, okay, all the doors in my school were wide enough so you can have wheelchairs go in and out, have wheelchair access. Her door is even wider, and she's so fucking huge that she still has to scoot in sideways to get in. She can't walk in like a normal person. Actually, she doesn't walk, she waddles. Wibble wobbles, like, well, fuck. Horrible person. Horrible person. I know you're probably going to say, like, why do you draw and smudge it out and stuff, Like, draw these lines and then you're just going to smudge it. Like, sometimes I want it darker in a certain way, and the easiest way of doing it is smudging and then sharpening up the lines again after I smudged it. It's just my method. And tell you the truth, with art, there is no wrong way of doing it. A lot of people will say, like, certain things would be considered cheating, and some would say there is no rules to art. Yes and no. Yeah, there is rules to art, and people don't want to admit to it because there are certain art styles, techniques and whatever. Yeah, there are rules on how to do this, but some of these rules are like kind of arbitrary, But like doing perspective, yeah, that is a rule, but you don't have to do is 1 point or 2 point or 3 point or 5 point perspective, or drawing actually how the human eye actually sees things. Like literally do the central point is like 1 point perspective, and then don't move your head, then move up to the upper right and draw it as you see it in that, and then just draw it in the corner, the upper right of your picture, the same thing. And just do it for each of the corners. And then merge the lines into each other, and you realize it comes into a curve. Well, yeah. That's just how it is. But if you actually draw how you see, it's going to be the central point that's going to be in 1 point perspective. But if you don't move your eye around and stuff, what you see will actually get fuzzier and fuzzier as you go outwards, to the point where you will not even see like shapes, really. You just see as like to the furthest edges of your eyesight, of all the way to your furthest right to the furthest left. If you just look straight and just notice off to the edges, that you won't see shapes, you'll just see is like light and shadow, like what's, sometimes color, but usually, light and darkness. It's kind of hard to explain what I'm talking about on this, but if you do it on your own, like look forward, you put your hands out in front of you, like, and you just kind of move your hands out further and further off to your side, and you get to a point where you know they're there, but you can't see them, but you start moving your fingers, you'll start seeing like movement, from changing of light and dark patterns. But just look forward and you'll see this, and you keep on doing it, you can see how far you can actually see. Your peripheral vision really is For some people, it's actually much greater than they think it is. And that's just you from not moving your head or moving your eyeballs back and forth and stuff. You know. I'm going to tell you, this technique of what I'm doing, it's not for everybody, but I don't suggest everybody do this, like, to draw in this manner, like drawing the shadows first and stuff, because just draw it the way it feels natural or easy for you. Try different methods. You might surprise yourself of what you can or can't do. Because it's kind of a humbling thing for some people where they're really good at a particular way of doing it, but if they tried it a different way, they'll find out that they're not perfect. That's why I'm saying, like, kind of humbling to some people, because some people need to get themselves in that position to where they realize they aren't perfect at everything. And the whole thing about, like, the question of, like, talent versus skill, what's better, having the talent to do this. I've always had talent. But talent will get you so far in life. It takes practice and patience and stuff that develops up the skills that you do. You have to learn how to do a lot of this stuff, and a lot of it is trial and error. Like your greatest artists, painters and and not all painters can draw, by the way. I'm not saying that all painters were horrible at drawing. That's why they just smudge paint around. No. You got is like Renaissance artists. Every single one of them knew how to draw. Like Da Vinci, yeah, he draw meticulously, constantly. He was obsessed with certain techniques. That's why he never finished. Like, he would do is just one particular technique in for a painting that he was really obsessed to perfect it. Once he perfected this particular trying to do this particular type of illusion on paint, on canvas and whatnot. It could be canvas, could be on wood panels or on fresco, on freshly plastered walls. Once he perfected whatever he wanted to perfect on it, he kind of gave up on the picture a lot of times. He's well known during his time as just someone that hardly completes a lot of his works. But he was really good at his craft, though. And he was more commissioned on the lines of different things than being a painter or draw things. It's like he draws schematics. He was a diplomat. Yeah, he was a diplomat to multiple countries at the same time, to where he literally had to be in a room by himself to discuss to himself of the different positions. Like, this is how kind of ridiculous this is. So let's say he's done this before, where he was a royal diplomat for the Kingdom of France. Okay. And he was also a diplomat to a few other countries, so he literally had to do was argue against himself and whatever, and try to come up with what would be the best solution on both sides, because he already has, what is written down, which each side really wants, and they know that if they get him, they can always get what they want, because he was an excellent diplomat. And plus, he did was a lot of times he would literally had to fight himself on a lot of these things. And all he really did was thought about, like, okay, what is the best solution for all parties and whatnot, going, that would, and then he would do is send messages to each of his clients, which were different kingdoms and principalities and whatever they wanted, saying this is kind of the offer, this is, specifying, and sometimes they go for it or a little changes and counter offers. So he was like the middleman for a lot of countries. Usually this is why you have diplomats for, but since he was a diplomat for a lot of countries, he had to do was, and he was like a personal royal diplomat. So a lot of times, yeah, he communicated a lot. Other times he just did was say, no, this is the best for all sides, and they kind of agreed with him. It's like, okay. Yeah. 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 Who am I drawing? You're probably going to wonder. Well, yeah, this is an old picture of somebody. It's not the best picture, but this one has a lot of shadows and stuff, especially within the face and whatnot. And the hair. I'm not doing it exactly how she really looks, but yeah. Yeah, the whole thing, like what are the rules? Like, okay, when you learn how to draw or paint or whatever, let's say you want to do a certain art style. Well, there are rules that are pertaining to that particular art style. So, yeah, since these things actually, there are rules that were created by these particular people, like Picasso and his Cubist style. And it was actually him and a friend that were doing this, and other people kind of copied his shit, but they weren't really good. And he copied his like kind of style. Started with African masks. Yeah, they were in the museum in Paris at the Louvre. Yeah. And he saw the exposition on it, and then other artists started seeing the exposition on this stuff. He was really into it and interested because this was like something new to him and interesting. So he decided to go with his faces to be like that, and then that devolved into what is Cubism. But he had was his particular art style where he was like literally simplifying and deconstructing the face and showing the different aspects of the human face from multiple angles. And it wasn't just humans that he painted. He also painted with still life, and some of it it's like kind of like a party game to figure out like what did he draw? What is he's painting? He painted here. You know, and some that people that seen just his later works or whatever, or his works that he's done in Cubism and stuff, or when he was doing with the African mask look of you know painting the prostitutes and stuff. And you're wondering, like, some people that just seen like some of that stuff and not knowing his background, thinking that he was a terrible artist, that he could not draw for the life of him, that he couldn't do anything that was good, or to their concept of what is good, yeah. No, he actually knows how to draw realistic. That his family were royal court painters. He comes from a long line of royal court painters. His father was kind of pissed at him because he didn't want to follow that route, being the courtly painter and stuff, That was how that family always stayed in business and made money, And not the father had no idea that, art for the masses, art for art's sake. Yeah, his father was actually pretty good too, but not on levels as Pablo was. I mean, think about it. It's one thing to create something that was meant for a customer, a portrait. That's one thing. But it's something else when it comes down to like creating something that is meaningful. Not just something that looks good, but is art. Well, it's on your definition of what is and isn't art. Do you consider it art or not? Or do you consider a portrait artwork or not? Yeah, it's artistic. It has that, but if you think of like art of have to have meaning and stuff, no, it's kind of devoid of any symbolism or any major meanings, because that's not the whole point of that particular piece that they were doing. It was about just capturing the person, of what they actually look like, and they usually want it in a certain style. And that's just kind of how it is, It's like, okay, you just create works under what is, you're commissioned to do. No. I had one of my teachers that I had. She was always amazed about how I draw and also how I paint it, because I paint it the same way as I draw. I did my smudge technique. She wondering why I never use smudge sticks or anything like that, and she saw what I did, especially with painting. I use my fingers, my hands, my thumb and stuff. But I also had was a rag or so that I had a dab or whatever to get that fine point or whatever I needed to do. I had my techniques that made sense to me. And she's never seen anybody do what I do, at that point. She was like always enthralled about watching me, watching me draw or paint. She was like stunned of how I would do is literally immerse myself into the piece. That my only matter was actually of creating this piece. It was not anything, I would have so much detail in things. My paintings, I always would hide messages in there. I would have mathematical equations. I would have my fingerprint and stuff like that. But besides that, I would have lyrics written in there. I mean, from a distance, how you're supposed to see the painting, you see it one way. But if you get really close, then you start seeing all these hidden things, these things that look like there were lines or whatever. You find out it's actually, lyrics to something or whatever, But even within those lyrics of whatever song or songs that I have, within there, that it pertains to the piece that I'm working on, that particular piece. And she was amazed of how much I was able to get the shading correct, just told her that the reason why I do it this way is because this is like the only way I can find out, that I can get the softness correctly, the shadows just right, And I can just erase to get the highlights that I needed. Yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna put this up unedited or edit out some of the bibble babble here. But yeah, that's the reference photo. Kept on going in and out on me, but yeah, use that for this. It's not finished, but you see what I'm doing, right? You realize it's actually kind of difficult to draw while trying to not get in the way of the camera and stuff, and try to position everything to get it just right so you can see what I'm doing. I'll do one of these pictures where I'll use particular colors and stuff that I have, paints and whatnot. You'll be amazed when I tell you what it is. How simple. By the way, you don't have to have like the most expensive art equipment. Like, this is just a basic number 2 pencil. You know, I say, oh, you have to have all these fancy pencils. No, it's just a basic number 2. And if you don't know what a number 2 is, it's an HB pencil. That's what a number 2 pencil is. Yeah, there is a number 1 pencil. You can get it on my shop. And the link is in the description and stuff. I might put all my links also in my bio. So, I need to edit that, but yeah. I keep on going from one point to another. The different parts of my picture, because there are things that I like and I don't like. You know. Do I hate this? No. Do I love it? No. I think I did a pretty good job just on starting a drawing, just going with shadows. Yeah. They tell you that there's only one way of doing things. Like, no, there isn't. You can always find multiple ways of doing things. I don't actually normally draw in this manner, you know, of going by, you know, shading first. A lot of times I do line work first. Massive detail of lines and stuff before I'll ever go with shadowing and, you know, the smudge technique and whatnot. But yeah, but this one I decided, you know what, let's go straight for, you know, shading and stuff and going for the lights and darks, similar to how you would do it with paint. So usually, like with oils and acrylics, you go with your big sections of values of your lights and darks, you know, like blocked off. And then you do is from these blocked out areas, you refine the image to where you want it. You might find out that that is a much easier way of doing things than it is to just line it all up. Because a lot of times you still want to do is use pencil, line everything, and then do your massive block values, you know, and then detail and stuff and whatnot. And all my paintings have mixed mediums anyways. Yeah. And my teacher that was really amazed about my work, my artwork, she wasn't the only one. I have had quite a few art teachers and other teachers that weren't art teachers that seen me draw and seen my paintings and drawings and stuff were just flabbergasted of the work that I do. And I'm like excelling in their classes and they're like, how can one person be this talented in so many fields, you know, have so much passion in different fields of study and stuff. I'm like, yeah. And I've told them, even all the way to my kindergarten teacher, I'm a Renaissance man. When I learned about what the Renaissance men were, I just used that term. Since kindergarten, I learned at a very young age because thanks to PBS and art books and stuff like that. Yeah, a lot of members of my family have actually helped me when I was younger, teaching me how to read. Like at a very young age, my mom did, and also my sister Tammy. taught me how to read at a very young age. So yeah, I was already reading when I was in kindergarten. I already knew my alphabet and stuff like that, everything else, but your basic stuff. But nobody in my class, you know, knew any of this shit. They didn't know the ABCs or how to count or anything. They, they didn't know what the real name was. They didn't know how to spell. They didn't know how to write their own name. I'm like, how could you not know? You know, like, I even had to ask this to my mom, about this. She just told me that their family has never bothered to teach them. Well, that's stupid. You're supposed to learn this in school. Like, that's stupid. They tell you to go to certain places and you don't know how to read and write, so you don't know what your letters are, and they tell you that it's this room. Like, okay, they all look like. So it's like, that's kind of fucked up. Telling you to go somewhere, room 820. It's like, but you don't know how to read and write yet. That, to me, that's just fucked up, It's like, and some of these kids get lost, and since the whole entire school all looks the same, all the buildings look alike and whatnot, so with the classrooms, like, if you don't memorize where it is or don't know how to read and write, you're going to be screwed to the point where you're going to get lost. And a lot of these kids got lost, and this is an outdoor school. In other words, there are separate buildings, but each building looks exactly the same anyways, on a big ass field, but you can get lost pretty quickly. But it's laid out, pretty simple. It seems like you shouldn't be able to get lost, but if you're not familiar with it, like your first day there and whatnot, and you don't know how to read and write, it all looks the same to you, you know? You're thinking, well, I could do that and whatever. Well, you're much older, but you have to think about this. This is usually, I'm talking about little kids, people that are, just going through kindergarten the first time. By the way, a lot of kids at my school, their parents didn't put them in kindergarten early in age. No, these kids happen to be about 2 to 3 years older than me. I'm wondering, okay, they're 2, sometimes 3 years older than me, a few of them were, and you didn't know how to read and write or anything. It's like, didn't your parents just plop you in front of the TV and watch Sesame Street or Sesame Plaza, Because most of them were border jumpers. Literally, their parents jumped over the border with false documents and stuff, so they can stay over here. I can understand of their parents wanting their kids to have a better life here than what they would have had in Mexico. Because some of the people that did come over, they're escaping whatever troubles that they have, or they wanted was a better life for their child, because where they were living in Mexico and they were in poverty to the point where their kid is not going to succeed unless if they do something, changing their family's life. Some have done honorably, of going through the system, but even that way, it's like very, very difficult. There are people that are border jumpers that literally jump over the border, plop, having their kids plop them here, And a friend of the family, that's how he was born. His mom was a teenager, ran across Mexico, escaping so much strife, and all she wanted was a better life for her child. She was pregnant, by the way. She snuck over the border, went to LA, And she delivered her child, and she did was gave him up for adoption because not because she didn't want her kid no more. No. She knew that she was young and there was no life for her and her child. If she kept the kid, she knew that she couldn't take care of him. She wouldn't give him the life that he wanted. And, it broke her heart. But she did what she could, and she gave him an opportunity to basically have a much better life than what she could provide for her son. He was kind of resentful about his birth mom, in some ways. When I got to meet him and stuff, and I told him, like, your mom did the most courageous thing that she could. She gave you up out of love because she wanted something better for you. It wasn't that she was trying to throw you away. She was trying to give you something that she knew that she could not provide for you. She was a teenager, she was a young mom, she could not do that, You're her first kid. To the point where I think he finally stopped regretting, about her decision. That whole thing of, like, a lot of people that get, into the system or whatnot and whatever, things like that, their birth mom put them up for adoption. They don't realize what was going on during that time for them. Not realizing that, it could be a lot of things. Sometimes it was that they didn't want the child or whatever. Other times they did, but they couldn't keep it, or family, or they had was an abusive husband or something. Whatever. Life was shitty at the moment. Yeah. He was going to tell me, is like, how would I know why? I'm like, think about it. I already know her story. She ran across Mexico from south going up north, hop over the border, a young teenage girl, barefoot and pregnant, basically. No, definitely pregnant. And she's racing to get you over here so she can deliver you so you can have a better life. If she didn't want you to have a better life or didn't care about you, why she even go through, going through the pregnancy, she could have just aborted you, anytime. She could have did was put you up for adoption in Mexico, But she wanted you to have a better life than what she could give. Especially at that time, Doesn't mean that she didn't care about you. She didn't want you. Some people just don't see it as that, Because most of his life, early on in his life, I should say, he didn't know that he was adopted. He was told he was adopted when he got old enough, because I asked about that. Like, when did you first told him that he was adopted? Because I asked his mom about this. And she said, well, they decided at a certain age when they felt that he was mature enough to handle it, And they said that no matter what, you are our kid. And that's how she still sees him. Her husband died a long time ago. His father, his adopted father. So, but that's still his dad. It's the only dad he's known. And his mom, his adopted mom, is his mom. She's the one that raised him. She's the one that loves him. And she did everything she could, you know. I know. I'm not really showing what I'm doing. I think that'll be it for now.